So come with me, if you will, to Matthew 12. We're going to begin, just read a few verses, beginning in verse 14. Matthew 12, 14. It's going to be on your screen. Matthew 12, 14 says, "But the Pharisees went out and conspired against him as to how they might destroy him." Now, I understand I'm leaving a little bit of the context here, but this was our message last week. So if you missed it, I still haven't posted it on the website, but it will be there by tomorrow night, by the end of day by tomorrow night, so that you can catch the explanation of chapter 12, because it's really, really important what's happening here. But here's the gist of the decision that is made here by the official leadership of the nation. They decide to conspire against him to destroy him, to take his life. So they have come to this place where they are ready. They've made up their mind. They're going to get rid of him. I want us to go now down to verse 22 and see how Yeshua illustrates and explains what's happening to the nation, okay? Verse 22, it says, "Then a demon-possessed man who was blind and mute was brought to Yeshua, and he healed him, so that the mute man spoke and saw. All the crowds were amazed and were saying, 'This man cannot be the son of David, can he?'" You see, here's the issue. Is he the Messiah or not? Are we going to reject him, or are we going to accept him? The leadership had already decided he is not. We're going to kill him. But the people are still considering him. 24. "But when the Pharisees heard this, they said, 'This man casts out demons only by Beelzebul, the ruler of the demons.'" So that's, if I may go a little bit ahead of myself, this is a manifestation of their hardened heart. That they've already decided they're going to believe something and they're going to do something, and now they're going to find an excuse, a spiritual, theological, biblical, you name it, an excuse that he is casting out demons because he has a demon. So Matthew is showing us here the thought process, the decision that's being made, and why. Let's go now to verse 43, because now Yeshua is going to give his explanation. He says in 43, "Now when the unclean spirit goes out of a man," you may recall this, we talked about this last week. When the unclean spirit goes out of a man, it passes through waterless places seeking rest, and does not find it. Then it says, 'I will return to my house from which I came.' And when it comes, it finds it unoccupied, swept, and put in order. Then it goes and takes along with it 7 other spirits more wicked than itself, and they go in and live there. And the last state of that man becomes worse than the first." Here's the punchline, okay? "This is the way it will also be with this evil generation." All of this story, illustration, parable, example of a man being demon-possessed, being freed from the demon, and then the demons coming back with 7 worse demons, all of this is actually explaining what will happen to that generation. So that instead of reading the man, we have to read the generation. And even more specifically, it applies to the leadership of the nation at that generation. This is very important that we get this. because the Jewish people have received blame as a nation for 2,000 years for something that the leadership in one generation did. That is demonic. That is from the one who is the accuser of the brethren, from the father of lies, to attempt to destroy the Jewish people by those who have embraced the Messiah. It's pretty amazing. This is actually, first and foremost, an attack on God the Father himself, an attack on Yeshua. Look what I'm getting those who believe in you, or at least those who profess to believe in you. Look, I'm getting them to attack the Jewish nation. So, in light of this, then, Yeshua goes in and explains what is going to happen to the kingdom now that he has officially been rejected. That is chapter 13. But before we move into chapter 13, then, which we're going to do next week, we need to understand this issue of the rejection of the leadership of the nation, of Yeshua as Messiah. And the best way that Scripture has actually to explain what happened here is this theme of the hardening of the heart. And so come with me to Romans 11 then. We're going to set it up from Romans 11, and then we're going to jump to Exodus, okay? So that we can understand this issue of the hardening of the heart. So Romans 11, beginning in chapter 7. In verse 7. I'm misspeaking a lot today. I don't know why. Maybe I'm hungry. I don't know. Bob is like, maybe. What do you mean, maybe? All right, Romans 11, verse 7. What then? What Israel is seeking, it has not obtained. But those who were chosen obtained it. And the rest were hardened. In this verse, it is speaking only of Jewish people. You see, Israel is the one seeking righteousness, but it has not obtained it. Those who were chosen, and here we don't have time to get into the doctrine of election, which is another big and controversial issue, right? But those who were chosen obtained it. So those within Israel obtained it. You see, you have to understand that chapter 11 is speaking about the remnant of Israel. That's what Paul does when he brings in this chapter the example of Elijah. Remember, Elijah fell all alone. I'm the only one left. And the Lord said to him, no, I have 7,000. I have a remnant that have now bowed their knee to Baal. And so that's the context of Romans 11 here. And this is then within that understanding and that context that what Israel is seeking, it has not obtained, but those who were chosen obtained it. That's the remnant. That's those from within Israel that have believed in Yeshua. And the rest of the Jewish people were hardened. And then he quotes scripture. He says, just as it is written, God gave them a spirit of stupor, eyes to see not, and ears to hear not, down to this very day. And David says, let their table become a snare and a trap. We're going to talk about a snare in a moment when we go back to Exodus. And a stumbling block and a retribution to them. Let their eyes be darkened to see not, and bend their backs forever. Verse 11. I say then, they did not stumble so as to fall, did they? They did not stumble so as to fall. There's a difference. Have you ever stumbled? I have. Have you ever stumbled and fallen? Me too. But have you ever stumbled and not fallen? Okay, that's what he's saying here. They did stumble, but they didn't fall. So, yes, there's an issue here of the rejection of the Messiah, but the doctrine of replacement of Israel is going too far. It's not what God has done with Israel. They stumbled, but they didn't fall. May never be. But by their transgression, salvation has come to the Gentiles to make the Jews jealous. Now, if their transgression is riches for the world, if the transgression, if the stumbling of the Jewish people brought riches to all the nations, in terms of salvation through the Messiah, and their failure is riches for the Gentiles, how much more will their fulfillment be? Their fulfillment. When the Jewish people come to fulfillment, this is speaking of the union of those who belong in the covenant of Moses, accepting and receiving the new covenant. There is fulfillment. There is completeness happening there. That will result in much more riches to all the nations. I'm reminded of Rahab as we read this morning. It amazes me how certain she was. God has given you this land. And the fear that was on her, not only of the God of Israel, but the fear of the people of Israel themselves. A healthy fear, a healthy conversion of the heart, really, for her to follow the Lord's ways and to become a godly person. Riches. How much more so to the nations when Israel is brought to fulfillment, to completeness. That's Paul here explaining. But look how he's going to end this section here in verse 25. Jump down to verse 25. For I do not want you to, brethren, to be uninformed of this mystery, so that you will not be wise in your own estimation, that a partial hardening has happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles has come in. There's a fullness of Israel and there's a fullness of the Gentiles here. But the fullness of the Gentiles comes first, and when that's completed, then the partial hardening will go away. Now, the partial hardening, as Paul explained it here in verse 7, that the nation was hardened. Those who were chosen did obtain righteousness. The rest were hardened. So the partial means those who have chosen not to believe in the Messiah. There isn't a full hardening. It's only partial. Meaning there are some in each generation from the people of Israel that will believe in the Messiah. And that has happened through history. Sometimes it's very hard to even see when you study history. But there are Jewish people that were saved in every generation. And what we see now today is an explosion, really, a revival, a beginning of the end, as the whole Christianity in the nations is rejecting more and more, falling away. Believers in Yeshua from Israel and from the Jewish people are continuing to grow, continuing to grow, continuing to grow. It's amazing. So this is the setup. That partial hardening has happened to Israel. Let's now go to Exodus and begin to understand what this hardening is all about. Because here's the thing. The first thing that comes to our mind when we read that God hardened Pharaoh's heart is not fair. Meaning that God prevented Pharaoh from believing, from repenting. It's like Pharaoh didn't have a choice. It's like, I want to, but God is hardening my heart. Well, we know that's not quite right. But how do we explain it then? Because it does say God hardened his heart. So let's go back to it. I want to show you here on the screen, I want to begin with one chart. So if we can have the first chart here. Are you okay if I get a little nerdy on you today? Yes? 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 Are you okay if we go a little deep into Hebrew grammar? Is that okay? Nathaniel and I are seeing, Hebrew grammar just beginning. We just started this class, and it's just like you got to swim fast. All right, so I got your consent, so I'm gonna go a little nerdy on you today. So don't come complaining to me. So I am also actually before we get into this chart here, I am also going to be reading from a book. I'm going to read you about a couple of pages from a book. It's a book written by some guy. What's his name? Let's put him on the screen over there. Some guy, just a book. No, nothing important, right? So I'm going to read a couple pages from my book. You can go to Amazon, put my name on there, and the book will come up. It's only like $4 for a Kindle version. I am not going to get rich. I am not trying to promote this book so that I get rich. I've never even seen a penny out of this, actually. But it has some good stuff there, actually. So I'm going to, rather than just reinventing the wheel, I already wrote about this, and it's still pretty good. So I'm going to read some of the stuff that's there, because I did a study here precisely on this issue of hardening of Pharaoh's heart. All right, so let's go back to that chart. So on the top line here, we see God hardens Pharaoh, and we see a Hebrew word here, chazak. Chazak. This is, this word actually. In Joshua 1:9, remember, this verse, right? Joshua 1:9. Have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous? So that word strong, that's the word chazak here. Be strong. So the Lord is commanding Joshua, I want you to be strong and do not make a covenant with the nations, with the Canaanite nations. Be strong. Be determined and resolute that you are going to obey the Lord and not make a covenant. So that word, chazak, that has that positive connotation, so to speak, in the book of Joshua, but it also has a negative connotation. So it is one of the words used for hardening. So just as Joshua was supposed to harden his heart and do not make a covenant with the Canaanite nations, so Pharaoh hardened his heart and said, no, to the Lord. Time and time and time again. So this word can be used in both ways. Let me show you a few verses here. Oh, let me explain this. So you see the Hebrew word here, chazak, and then you see another Hebrew word. It's called piel. Piel. It's not the Spanish word for skin. If you know a little Spanish, you know that's how you write skin, like the skin on your. Yeah, it's Hebrew. It's Hebrew. So the piel is actually a grammatical category, and we have the meaning right there. So when you have a Hebrew word in the grammatical construction called piel, remember, you gave me permission to get nerdy on you, so here you go, right? When you write a Hebrew word in the grammatical construction of piel, what you're doing is making it causative. Causative. Now, if you think about that word, it's self-explanatory. It's to cause something, to make something happen, right? So the explanation here says that God acts to bring about a certain condition. The condition is to be hard. So God acted, he did something that caused Pharaoh's heart to be hardened. And so when we understand that, we go like, whoa, see, I was telling you. You know, how come God made Pharaoh be hardened? All right, so we're just starting, so we can't make conclusions at the first little bit of evidence, right? So we got to keep digging. So I want to show you a few verses where chazak is used in this manner, okay, in the piel, in the causative. So, for instance, Exodus 4:21. Exodus 4:21, it says, I'm only going to read just a little part of the verse. Towards the end, the last sentence of the verse says, but I will harden his heart so that he will not let the people go. I will harden his heart. So that's God speaking in the PL. I will cause his heart to be hardened. Another one is Exodus 9:12. And it says, 9:12, and the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart. So the Lord did something that caused his heart to be hardened. Let me show you one more. Exodus 10:20. 10:20. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart. All of these are in the PL, which is God did something that caused his heart to become hard. All right, so let's go back to the chart again. Now we're going to see the second category here. The second word is the word kaved. Kaved. This is the word for glory, the glory of God. Kaved. But it also means heaviness or weightiness. Have you heard of the saying, like we use it of politicians? Wow, he loves to throw his weight around, right? He loves to declare his importance, to throw his weight around. That's pretty close to how this word actually, the thought that it conveys. God's glory is weighty. It's weighty. We sing the song, let the weight of your glory fall, right? That's a play. The writer of that song knew the meaning of the word kaved. That it means glory and it means weight, being weighty. God is weighty. When he's present, you feel it. He throws his weight around, not in a bad way, but like he did with Moses, he declared his name. Show me your glory. He declared his name to Moses. And Moses felt the weightiness, and he had to bow down and worship. So, just like chazak, this word can be used in a good way right? Glory, weightiness. But it also means heaviness, as in being unresponsive. That's a negative connotation of this word. And so in that regard, Pharaoh's heart became heavy. So in English, it's translated hardened. But what's the thought behind it is kaved, is weightiness. His heart became unresponsive to God. So we have kaved, and look at the next word, hifil. Hifil. It's not he feels, no, it's he feel, right? It's a grammatical category in the Hebrew. And look what it means. It's similar to the other one. It says causative, and it says God causes a certain action to be performed. So the first one, piel, causes a certain condition. This one causes a certain action. In other words, he made me do it. Right? So we go back to the theological problem. Well, here you go again, Joey. You're saying that God made Pharaoh harden his heart. That wouldn't be fair. Well, just give me a little time. I'm still working on this, okay? Let me show you a couple of verses that use this word kaved in the hifil in this precise way, okay? So, actually, I have only one, Exodus 10:1. Exodus 10:1. Exodus 10:1 says, there we go. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go to Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the heart of his servants." I have hardened his heart. I have made his heart heavy. Even though the English word is hardened, still the same one, it's actually a different Hebrew word, okay? So I have made his heart heavy or unresponsive. That's why God says, let my people go, and he's not responding to God. He's not responding to God in the right way, right? In a way that says, yes, you are Lord, and I am not. So, all right, so that's that one. Remember, we're building something. We're putting a good foundation to build a good theology here. So let's look at a third word, the last word. One more word that is used for the concept of hardening, okay? The word is kasha. Kasha. It means hard. And this one is used in the hifil as well. So it's the same causative. God causes a certain action to be performed. So we have Exodus 7:3 under this one. Exodus 7, verse 3. And it says, "But I will harden Pharaoh's heart." I will harden Pharaoh's heart. So the word here is kasha, to make hard. Okay, so I'm going to have another chart, but I want to give you a little bit of explanation here before. So let me read here. So here we have all three words represented. The words piel and hifil are Hebrew grammatical categories that tell us the type of action of a verb. In these three cases, the action is causative, meaning that God is causing the condition to come about or causing the action to be performed. With the piel, we have that Pharaoh's heart is in a certain condition, hardened. God acted in such a way that he brought about that condition. Now, we will see later that what was that action that God performed. That's going to be the key. What did God do that caused Pharaoh's heart to become hardened? That's where the answer is. What did God do? With the hifil, then we have that God causes a certain action to be performed. So the piel causes a condition, the hifil causes an action. In other words, you made me do it, right? So that action that God is going to cause. That action was the hardening of the heart. And we're going to see that later again. So let's go to that second chart then. You still with me? You still okay? I told you it's going to be nerdy. A little heavy. Good, David. Keep going. All righty, so here in the second chart then, let's see, Mario's working on it. Okay, here we go. Now we're going to see Pharaoh hardening his own heart. So the first chart was about God hardening Pharaoh. Now we're going to see Pharaoh hardening his own heart, okay? Because here's the thing. We have 20 occurrences of hardening in this Exodus section of God dealing with Pharaoh. 20. 10 speak of God hardening Pharaoh, and 10 speak of Pharaoh hardening his own heart. So it's like two sides of one coin here. Which is it? Did God do it, or did Pharaoh do it to himself? The answer is yes. Yes. The answer is in the details, right? So remember, God, what did God do? That's going to be the key there. So, all right, so we have Chazak here again. Okay, in this, now we're talking about the verses in which Pharaoh hardened his own heart. Okay, so we have Chazak now in the Kal. The Kal is another grammatical construction, just like PL and Hifil. So the Kal is actually the simple action. Nobody made me do it. I didn't cause anything. God didn't cause anything. It's just simple, 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 simple. Okay, let me show you a couple verses in this one. Exodus 7:13. Exodus 7:13, we read, "Yet Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he did not listen to them," to Moses and Aaron. So Pharaoh's heart was hardened. He did it. He did it to himself. He hardened his own heart. Exodus 7:22, just a few verses down. 7:22. Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he did not listen to them. Okay, let's go back to the chart. So we saw Chazak. Now we're going to see Kaved. Same words, right? Kaved. In the Hifil, we already are familiar with the Hifil. It's causative. But here, God is not the one who does the acting. It is Pharaoh himself. Look, it says that Pharaoh causes a certain action to be performed. So Pharaoh made himself. That's what that means. He made himself become hardened. In other words, he hardened himself. And we see that in Exodus 8:15. Exodus 8:15. It says in Exodus 8:15, "But when Pharaoh saw that there was relief, he hardened his heart and did not listen to them." When Pharaoh saw that Moses went back and prayed and the plague went away, he hardened his heart. And we know this happened over and over and over again. 9 times. God took it away, and he hardened his heart. And he said, "Nope, will not let you go." Another verse will be Exodus 8:32. Exodus 8:32. It says, "But Pharaoh hardened his heart this time also, and he did not let the people go." All right, so back to the chart again. So we have Chazak, the first word again. We saw it in the Kal, simple action, right? Pharaoh's heart was hardened. Then Kaved, he became heavy. Pharaoh's heart became heavy when he saw that God had relented. So he became insensitive, unresponsive to God. We have kaved also in simple action, and we have it as an adjective. As an adjective. You know what an adjective is? You remember what an adjective is? I'm so sorry. I'm so nerdy. I'm making you think so hard today. So hard. It's a good time to take a nap. I mean, I wouldn't blame you. You know, an adjective is how you describe something, right? If you talk about the weather, you're using lots of adjectives. You're describing how it is, what it looks like, what it feels like. Those are adjectives. If you talk about, how was the service today? So you're using a bunch of adjectives. It was great. It was awesome. It was long. Sorry. It was nerdy. Okay. So, and then going back to the chart, so we have it as a simple action. We have it as adjective. Let me read this Exodus 7:14. This is the adjective part, okay? So here's how Scripture describes Pharaoh's heart. It says, "Then the Lord said to Moses, Pharaoh's heart is stubborn," right? The house is big, is red, is old. Adjectives. Yeah, that's a key right there. So the Lord is describing, and it uses here the word, in the translation, it uses the word stubborn. It is stubborn. The Hebrew is heavy. It's heavy. In other words, it's unmovable. It would not move. God tells Pharaoh, let them go. And he says, I am not moving. I'm not doing what you say. Stubborn. The last one, going back to the chart, is the word kasha. Remember, we have those three words. Chazak, be strong, Joshua, right? Pharaoh became too strong for his own good. Heavy, and then just simply hard, kasha. And it is used in the Hifil. Again, this is causative. So Pharaoh causes a certain action to be performed. So let's read a verse right here. I believe it's only one. It's in Exodus 13:15. Exodus 13:15. It says, "It came about when Pharaoh was stubborn about letting us go, that the Lord killed every firstborn in the land of Egypt." He did this to himself. We know that because the word here, stubborn, is the word kasha, which means hard, and it is in the Hifil, which is causative, which means he caused his own heart to be hardened. He did it to himself. 10 times, God did it to him. 10 times, Pharaoh did it to himself. Let's find some answers. What does it mean that God hardened Pharaoh? All right. As we saw earlier, under the PL, God, let me go back and review. What is the PL? Okay, I forgot already, sorry. God acts to bring about a certain condition. That's the PL. The Hifil, God acts to bring about a certain action. Okay? So here, God acted to bring about a certain condition, which is that Pharaoh's heart was hard. So what did God do to bring that about? So here's the question, right? What did God do? What was that action that God did that caused Pharaoh's heart to become hard? To become hard. And then we ask the question. So under the Hifil, God caused an action to be performed. The action in context is the hardening. How did God cause that hardening? Well, the direct answer to this has two parts. Number one, God sent a lie that Pharaoh believed. And you're like, what? Did God lie? No. when a person refuses to believe the truth, they open themselves to all kinds of demonic lies. Those demons are under God's control. And the one who gives them permission, there are two who give them permission to come to a person. Number one, the person themselves. They open themselves. Number two, God allows those demons to come and fill this person with lies. And that's what happened. That's what God did with Pharaoh. That's one side of what God did. So in response here, God sent a lie that Pharaoh believed, and God continued the same request that was easy for Pharaoh to reject. Let me say it again. When Pharaoh hardened his heart, when he refused to believe, he opened himself to a lie. And let's put this into actual into the context here. Here's what happened. When Moses comes and turns the water into blood, Pharaoh's magicians do the same. What did Pharaoh do? Who is your God? I can do the same thing. I am just as a God as he is. I don't need to obey what he says. So he believed a lie because the part that God causes here is to make this easy for Pharaoh to believe. Let me give you an example, okay? When my boys were little, my little boy is 6'2". So he ain't little anymore, right? But when he was about 6, we used to have a little game. So when we will come out of service, we would race to the car. So I would say, I'm going to beat you. And so we will, all 3, 4, whoever was there, I have 4 boys, whoever was there, we will start running to the car, and I will play with them. I will toy with them, right? So I will slow down, and they feel like they're beating me. No, I'm beating you. No. And then, no. I let them win. And then sometimes I would just let them win. And most times, I would let them almost win to the end, and then I will reach out and I beat them, right? Just teaching them humility, right? God is doing something similar to Pharaoh. The problem is that my boys knew that I let them win, right? They didn't actually believe they were faster than me. They're 6. But Pharaoh actually believed that somehow he was more powerful than God. So when God would slow down and allow his magicians to replicate the miracle, Pharaoh thought, see, you and I are equals. God allowed him to believe that lie. That was a lie. And God made it easy for him to reject it. So when the other plagues came that the magicians couldn't replicate, Pharaoh will call Moses, okay, I'm ready, take it away. God will take it away. And let me tell you, the gist here is that God did it early. He took away the plagues early enough for Pharaoh to believe that he was still winning the race. God could have just destroyed the whole country with one plague. Done. I'm not here to play games. But he didn't do that. Because he was teaching Egypt, he was teaching the nations, and he was teaching Israel who he is. So the action that God did to make Pharaoh harden his heart is to present the right conditions for Pharaoh to make his own choice. That's why it can be both at the same time. God hardened his heart because he set up the conditions. Pharaoh hardened his heart because he made the decision. Let me give you another example. With this one, I think you'll get it. Imagine that you are a police officer and I am a car thief. You know I'm a car thief, but you haven't caught me red-handed, so you can't do anything about it. So you're going to set me up. You're going to bring this nice car. You're going to leave the key. You're going to go to the grocery store. You're going to leave the keys, the car running, the stereo going, the windows down. You're going to walk away, and here I come. Easy peasy. I'm going to step in the car, and I'm going to drive away. And as I am about to leave the parking lot of the grocery store, 10 police cars descend upon me. You caught me. What did you actually do? Did you make me steal the car? See, what you did was you set up the conditions for me to make the decision that will show what was in my heart all along. I hadn't done anything to show what was in my heart until you set up the conditions and I made my own decisions that showed what was in my heart. I made my own decision to steal the car. You did not make me do that. Pharaoh made his own decision to harden his heart, to say no to God. What God did was set it up. How did he do it? By taking away the plagues a little early. Just as Pharaoh asked, he took it away. And Pharaoh became more bold. I can do this. I'm still in charge here. He believed this lie, and he made his own decision. That is how God hardened Pharaoh's heart, by setting up the conditions so he will make his own decision and show what was in his heart. Now we're ready to understand Israel's partial hardening. Because Yeshua came so easy to be rejected. Isn't he the son of Joseph, the son of the carpenter? We know who he is. Why are you not teaching your disciples to eat, to wash their hands before they eat? Easy to try to catch him on breaking not only the Torah, but the traditions. You're not a good Jew. How could you be the Messiah? Your disciples pick grains on the Shabbat. You heal on the Shabbat. There's no way you can be the Messiah. And those miracles you do, they're in the power of demons. There's no way you are the Messiah. So he would intentionally, just like God did with Pharaoh, he will set it up. He will heal the man. He could have healed him Sunday morning, Friday morning. Nope. He healed the man in the synagogue on the Shabbat, setting it up so that they will make the decision and what was in their heart will be manifest. And that resulted in his rejection and his death. Israel hardened their own heart. In fact, their leadership made the decision and they open themselves to believing a lie. Now, Matthew's purpose is to prevent Jewish and Gentile believers in the congregation of Antioch, to whom he is writing his gospel, to prevent them from falling into precisely what happened. Replacement theology, anti-Judaism, anti-Torah, and anti-Semitic sentiments, rhetoric, and actions. And it is a message for us today. It is very easy to criticize Israel, to harden one's heart, to blame, to repeat the lies of old. But Matthew wants to grab our attention. And he wants to show us the reason why the Messiah did not establish his kingdom in his first coming in a physical way, in a physical manifestation. And that reason was for Gentiles to receive salvation. Why on earth would pride have any place? It makes no sense that pride will have any room. None whatsoever. Gratitude. A sense of indebtedness. You set it up so they would harden their hearts so you can include me in your salvation? Are you kidding me? I need to go back and share the gospel with them. That should be the normal reaction. Now, I want to conclude with this because I don't want to just, talk about high-level theology here. Because here's the thing. In relationships, we can also harden our hearts. You see, the setup in our lives is called offenses. Oh, here I go again, talking about offenses. It is so important. Offenses is one of the primary ways that the enemy is causing believers to fall away from the faith. Offenses is the primary way, as Matthew 24 says, that the love of many will grow cold. That's not talking about the world. That's talking about believers. The love that we profess, so much of it is in words, in hugs. I love you. You are awesome. Let me give you a hug. But when you offend me, sorry, dude. Unfriend. Now, unfriend on social media, who cares, right? But unfriend in real life, it hurts. Unforgiveness in real life, that kills. That hurts. Love grows cold through offenses. So the setup is, in order to develop us, the Lord is going to allow offenses to to come our way. And the enemy is going to try to use the offenses to get your love to grow cold. To make you ineffective. What are you? Who am I if we don't love? We're nothing. If we don't forgive, if we allow ourselves to become offended so easily, we can have all the talent, all the hugs, all the verbiage, and we're so weak and immature. There's a higher calling, friends. A call to love people. To love God by loving people. In a way that is supernatural. Forgiveness, it requires the supernatural from us because it hurts. It hurts. It hurts to forgive someone that's absolutely oblivious. So this is real, theologically for us and relationally.